So after spending the last few episodes running back and forth to then run back again, and hey, let's run forth once more, and in between all of this running, why not do the most simple tasks that anyone else could have done by themselves? All of this led me to the decision, enough. No more being a hero for other people. I'll now do what I want to do, and I will not let myself be guided by a list of quests or any other task advisories. But despite my best efforts, I somehow still ended up here. This is Wally. Frickin' Wally. He once was slaying a demon, but apparently he wasn't doing a too good of a job, so we have to do it again. So let's take a look at how exactly did I end up doing yet another quest for yet someone else while pursuing my own path. It all starts with this historic moment. I just passed through the door without pay, which to be honest is the least that they can do after my past struggles. And approaching the Lumbridge castle, we can tell there's something a little bit different. As the number is kind of giving away, we are somehow celebrating the 10th birthday of a 22-year-old game. Make sense? Good. Let's move on then. Also, this is why I use roofs. I would not have seen that otherwise, at least for now. And as is with every good party, we first go into the kitchen, as there's a new character here. And she is how we get ourselves involved into something that isn't our business at all, once again. So let's talk to Patty. Perfect name for a cook, by the way. Conversation starts with her whining around, and not the good kind of whining. Oh, how I love when people do that. And me being ever too friendly bags me a beautiful story about a baking tin that is apparently very special, but we destroyed it, somehow making it my business now fixing it. The game then in its ever mocking ways asking me if I really want to do that, and of course I do. I'm practically exhilarated to now walk to Bob, which I actually remember from my first episode, slightly overthinking the whole clue scroll thing. One surprisingly short conversation later, and a quick reminder that he does owe the cook one, whatever that means, fixes the tin almost instantly. Very suspicious, as it always is when things are going way too smooth. And back in the kitchen we find out that of course that wasn't all, as we now are also looking for a special hat apparently, which was stolen by a goblin lurking in the general store area. Why of course do I go there? No reason that you couldn't do that, right? But to be honest, I was kind of looking forward to finally beat up some goblins inside of the general store again, just to find out that first of all there is none in here for once, but second of all there's this suspicious guy with a cooking hat right next to it. Fine, let's settle for conversation. The guy claims to have found the hat in the castle somewhere, but he needs it because without it he's not a chef, which makes sense I guess. But merely my incredible diplomatic skills, also called goblin diplomacy, I must have picked that up somewhere in the past, managed to arrange a meeting of Goblin and the chef lady. So we're going back into the castle, and here we are part of a really beautiful moment. The two set aside their differences, and not only is the goblin receiving some tips and tricks, they actually also team up, creating the lumbridge entry cake to the bake-off together. Wow, inspiring stuff. I will not even get into real-life comparisons here at all because, yeah, that's not how life works, sadly. But a significant amount of mess and noise later, we have a cake for the entry. And at this point, we are barely surprised that it is I that has to bring the cake, of course. But I, for once, am offered a teleport there, actually. They even ask my consent. It's definitely a change of pace here. We're liking that. And after your standard legal text that it is a imprecise art, and God knows where I might end up, I have a little bit of mixed feelings now, but actually end up where I'm supposed to be. Good old Party Pete in Falador. Remember this place. So let's see what good old Pete has to say. We give him the cake, and wouldn't you know, just in time for the judging too. How convenient. And wouldn't you also look, he might need some help sorting out a slight problem. And all that just when I arrived.
How convenient.
I'm supposed to help the mage, out of all people, with the everlasting candle. Given my great history with these people, let's see how I can help. Suggesting he should try magic wasn't received too well, let's say. And apparently the only thing that can fix it is dragon fire, which we don't have. So all that is left is me walking over, sure he couldn't have done that himself, and inform Pete about the situation. And oh, what surprise, a dragon would have technically been invited, but we didn't hear back yet.
How convenient.
And I'm not so sure why, but I keep asking people if there's anything I can help with. And so I end up checking all the cakes if they're ready for judging. Glad I somehow managed to get myself into the staff of this event now. Well, so we have the gnome entry, which isn't even a cake. Then we have Varrock's entry. Here the cake is burnt. The two clowns with the colors, with the goblin entry, which looks like it's made from chocolate, but yeah, it might not be. Then there's this guy who apparently apparently that's a dwarf in this game. And once again an entry that kinda missed the idea of what a cake is, so they made a pie instead. I can kinda sense where this is going, and I'm reporting in. Surprisingly no more tasks from me, which starts a live stream of some sort. Glad that this is a epidemic that is trans-universal, I guess. But oh well. Party Pete, without further ado, judging the dwarven cake, or well, pie, coming to pretty much the same conclusion as I did. Well, next up, the colorful clowns. And remember when I told you that they might look like chocolate, but maybe it's not? Party Pete going for the taste check, and turns out it's mud. Pretty much, yeah. Just mud. Might be an old goblin family recipe, I guess. But we don't really get any time to ponder about this because suddenly Party Pete quickly cuts the feed. We just hear the yelling of someone telling everyone to get down, followed by a RuneScape original sound effect. No game does it better. Party Pete turns on the stream one last time, but pretty much just to tell everyone that, well, that was it. Apparently, we have to clean up now. I can guess someone has to clean up. And that really was it. To be fair, the room is looking as ever, and obviously the candle now is lit. Fantastic. Which only leaves one question, and here's pretty much my live reaction to this. Okay. Bitch, what the fuck? So one armada of words later, bitch told me what the fuck. Already way too long story short, of course Lumbridge won the cake off. Mainly because our competition was burnt cakes and mud, but oh well. I feel like even I could have been part of the podium here. So it's time to, well, first try to get rid of this flyer once more, which doesn't work, so here, have my bones. But what is really left is the same old, well, talk to this guy, then actually run 2 meters back to talk to the other guy. God forbid people ever talk to each other in this game, so that we can finally end this whole charade. But hey, at least I'm looking good now. The cosmetics, they are nice though. Then a quick detour to whatever this is. Don't ask me how I got into the situation. I don't know. I am innocent. I did not have sexual relations with that woman because I went to the museum instead. Apparently that exists. You know, knowledge is eternal, something like that. Anyways, after exploring this place, my understanding is that the community actually built this, or had to build this for it to even exist. This is actually a pretty cool idea. Not for me personally, as I don't even know what half of these things are, but for pretty much everyone else in this community, not bad. That's definitely something I was not used to from my poor choice of prior games, or game companies rather. But enough of that. That was a very political section. Holy shit. Let's rather move on to something a bit more relaxing maybe. Spoiler alert, we will be walking! Which, given the fact how goofy it looks when I run around with this 10-year balloon, isn't even that bad. So where are we walking to? Well, some of you might remember that little list I made up last episode, and we are in the vicinity of being able to tick one of these things off. To do so, I have to buy a bunch of leaves. And given the fact that I need a bunch more, and there, at least to my knowledge, is no way to bunch buy them, I have to go through a very tedious process of doing the same conversation over and over again until I eventually actually know the conversation word by word and can somewhat buy them without even looking at the screen. Regardless, I'm making it to my desired amount of woad leaves required. So moving on to the next step, beating up one of those guys with a 10-year balloon, as is tradition. Also with very interesting sound effects, I might say. I'm not sure if they had to add this sound effect explicitly for dumbasses like me who then start attacking stuff with it, or if the sound effect exists already. Regardless, I pick up a cape. Also, this fight took almost 2 minutes, for your information, I guess. But speaking of capes and woad leaves, I think you can kinda guess where this is going. Exactly, it's another one of these tedious conversations where you have to click all sorts of conversation options, while the person is constantly running away, so you also have to run after them to be able to click them all the time, but you're eventually turning all the leaves into dye. Well, blue dye that is, but for my plan I need some more. So let's start with getting rid of all my stuff. So we once again have some more room for adventure. The adventure can't possibly be beaten in excitingness because we are picking onions. And once again, a lot of them. And while we're at it collecting stuff, we also need red berries. Are you excited yet? Well, I am excited to tell you that this is where I try this simply switch the server to avoid the respawn time mechanic. And I have to say, it works really well. And a bunch of servers later, my bag is filled with the required amount of red berries. And while we're here, it is time for me to find out what happened to the items that I put on the Grand Exchange for sale. One nice conversation to the friendly employees here. Turns out green is good, and it means that my stuff actually sold for way much more than I expected. And I can now see the concern of some people with me selling gear to the basic vendors. But you live, you learn, I guess. Also, I literally wasn't able to use this place prior, so oh well. With much more riches, but even more knowledge, we return to Lumbridge, and my plan is slightly altered, as a certain motivation for wealth has been created. So let's get to work, and work really is no stretch, as the next step in my plan once again requires a tedious amount of conversation options being clicked and running after Aggie because she constantly runs away for some reason. I don't know. This time I actually reached a point where I simply remembered the number and spacebar combos required to get through the conversation options the fastest. I don't know if that's progress really, but it helped, I guess. And eventually leaves me with a bunch of dies. We did it. An additional visit at the bank changes the look of my inventory a little bit, and I think now it's relatively clear what I want to do. And given that I added a layer of money to this, I get a baseline of what these capes are worth, and then proceed with my actual plan. As many of you have urged me to combine the fact that I have a lot of capes in my bank, and that I now know how to dye things. So I'm now the proud owner of a yellow back piece, which I then find out is, funny enough, worth pretty much just half of the black one, even though I added resources to it. The entrepreneur in me was definitely not happy with this outcome, but then again, there are many more to come. For example, a red one, which is actually worth even less, a blue one, back to half the price again, but this is where it gets interesting now, as I've also learned that we can mix colors. So we make orange, purple and green, and of course the respective capes, and more importantly, examining those shows some numbers a bit more to my liking, as the orange cape is worth twice the money. Purple and green with a bit more over 800 are definitely coming close to that. Unsure why now suddenly the price is exploding, but I guess I might find that out someday as per usual. For now, I'm just glad that my current net worth is as much as these bunch of capes that I have in my inventory. Makes sense. But I'm definitely formulating certain plans of how to achieve riches in the future right now, but more on that later, as there's one more mechanic I wanted to figure out whether it works or not, and that is the question whether you can combine all three colors and make a cape, and yeah, you can't. I know that, you know that, but now I know that too, I guess. Or maybe I cannot combine one of these double colors with a single color. A thought that obviously hasn't crossed my mind, as I'm running out of colors here, so let's go for a little walk again. Well, and one walk later we turn onions into yellow, yellow and blue into green, and you can't combine those either. Well, that leaves more capes to sell for me. Well, not really, but whatever. Also, one quick little fashion show later, I not only learned that there is absolutely no difference between these capes other than cosmetics, and we choose the red one for now. I mean, I have enough to change anytime anyways, right? Given that everyone urged me to do this, I don't know if I'm sending some sort of message by now carrying the red color, but all I can think of is a certain group of goblins that might enjoy that. Regardless, quick checkup on Kelly. She is still in that cupboard, and I'm well on my way. On my way to make some money, as up to this point I'm merely just carrying around a bunch of cloth in my inventory. So we set up a bunch of listings here. If any of you need a cape, now's the time, by the way. A original Bat Sibis, now on the Grand Exchange. Here I also learned that those slots are presumably ones of those where you have to spend money to make money, even though you're spending real money to make fake money in-game, but oh well. And while we wait for the riches flowing in by, I'm pretty sure, people flocking to buy my capes really soon, I enjoy myself a break. A little bit of peace and serenity in a beautiful flower place. I don't know what that is, or what that is, or what this is. So I'd rather return to a scene of crime where I kill a tree, I guess. And this brings me to the exhilarating rush of a 15-second cutscene, and yet we somehow call this fast travel. It does get me somewhere, but yeah, this really is somewhere. After eventually making it out of this maze, whatever this new place was, I decided once again to go to a place of the past. But it will be all different, as not only have I now brought my weapons, I will also sneak in from behind. And they didn't see it coming. You might remember my vow from the time I came here unarmed, merely looking for information, and I was ruthlessly attacked. Well, it doesn't look that easy anymore, does it? With the whole I'm now also punching back with the numbers and everything, you know? And after a little warm-up, I realized that fighting the main guy, why I even came here, there still is no contest. So I decided for now it might be better to do something a little less combat-oriented, and I got the clue scroll that I am now apparently able to solve. And after reading, in a village of barbarians, I'm the one who guards the village from up high. I knew that it was once again time for my past confusion to turn into present enlightenment. I am congratulated on a job well done, but did not expect that we are not done here. Apparently, the anagram reveals who to speak to next. Well, that is your fucking opinion. I, for the love of God, couldn't figure out any other name than maybe Roddick, but for one, I'm pretty sure I haven't come across any Roddick in this game so far, nor do I think the name is actually written that way. And I'm happy to report that a tour the starting area confirmed my suspicion, and I couldn't really find a character that fits to these letters. And I really have been pretty much everywhere. So eventually, just like with the first clue scroll, I'll keep it in mind and eventually for sure forget about it again until I come across the solution by nature. Until then, I'd rather make some more money selling capes, of course, as this very quickly has become one of my favorite things to do at the moment. Might have something to do with me in this very quick time actually doubling my money. But I shall return to the barbarian village once more, and my inventory might be a little giveaway why or what my plan is. As you might remember, another thing on my to-do list was that hole in the ground. You can read the Stronghold notes, which essentially is a diary from a guy that has been there, but I came to the same conclusion as last time. This is simply too much text, and I just went in. And no amount of reading could have prepared me for what was about to happen. Greetings. This is the Stronghold of Security, and I kid you not, but the TLDR of this place is we are being asked security questions. Not about in-game security or any security really, no, about your account, and only if we answer the door's question correctly, we are allowed to proceed. This includes classics such as whose responsibility is it to keep the account safe, and apparently that's mine, or the doors are offering me dubious and special offers, which we sadly have to decline to be able to move on. What a shame. And I also learned that Jagex is not preventing me from saying my PIN in-game. Well, thanks for that knowledge. I will now walk around spamming my bank PIN. Thanks, Stronghold of Security. So other than questionable doors, the first floor is pretty much just filled with actually reasonable opponents. I introduce myself to wolves and minotaurs, and after answering my way to the middle of the labyrinth, we are getting rewarded, but naturally only if I've set up my Steam guard, which on this account I actually haven't done yet. So to progress in the game, I have to first progress outside of the game. Actually a funny concept. Wonder why I didn't catch on. So one Steam guard set up later, and lots of dumb questions at lots of dumb doors, I learned that I have to restart the game first for it to understand that I have Steam guard now. Well, fine, we've gotten this far, right? But one involuntary restart later, I have been deemed worthy to be unlocked the flap emote. And I think it's better to show you my live reaction again. Let's see if it was worth all of this effort. Are you kidding me? What the fuck, dude? Oh well. But there's more floors to this, right? So maybe it only gets better from here? At first, I elegantly ignore a warning because apparently I know that it may be dangerous down here. Well, of course I do. But then I'm first thing greeted by another player with a skull on top of their head, and I still don't really know what that means. It definitely can't be good. So unsure of what to expect from this place from here on forth. Despite the doors looking different, the questions are the same old nonsense. One difference though, just a little further, I instantly find myself in combat. A bit over a minute of panning camera later, I get confirmation that I can beat these guys. So maybe we're not done yet. A bit further, we find a different type of opponent, and close to 2 minutes of panning camera later, my health bar is dropping unreasonably low, and having burned through almost all my emergency fish at this point, I had the bright idea to try out the potion. But I was not ready that once you click it, you're not consuming it. You have to click something else. With my health bar bar dropping lower and lower, only slight panic set in. Healing with one more fish gave me the bright idea to click the potion and then click me, but nothing happened. Other than the skeleton using that time hitting me back to back and pretty much ends it all here. Which puts me on a long walk back to my gravestone to collect all my stuff. And I was using that time to ask myself some questions. Do potions work like potions in other games, or do they potion up something else? Why did I even go further into a place where doors constantly ask you dumb questions? And most importantly maybe, why do I fight an opponent that is so many more levels above me? That was not enough. I was exhilarated to find out that the gravestone is of course exactly where I died. Which meant another tour of beautiful questions with beautiful doors. So far my favorite minigame. But I'm eventually able to get back all my stuff and some stuff on the ground. And after not even a minute of panning camera fighting my way out of here, I'm pleased to tell you that even on the way out you have to answer questions. That's definitely secure, but I am definitely out of this godforsaken place. I do learn though that I can quick teleport to the first chest room, if I might ever come back of course. But I'm quickly making my way back to daylight, which is rather unusual for me, but I'm actually glad to be here. I vent my frustration to a poor barbarian, and just like this lady, to be never seen again around here. Well, that is unless there's a respawn. So what if I will respawn as well? Not really in the sense of dying and coming back, I've just done that, that wasn't too fun, but I'm talking about a comeback in the sense of coming back stronger. Just like that, I found myself in yet another little bit of a grind. But I had a plan. Was it a good plan? I don't know. I usually don't know. But as you can see in the background, I'm educating myself. And I eventually come to the conclusion, it's impossible that the fault is on my end. It must be my characters, obviously. And after finalizing my research, the goal was very simple. I needed to reach 20 attack and 20 defense points so I can buy mithril gear. So I switched from slash to shop and got to work, implying that beating up people is a profession, I'm assuming, but I'm okay with that. I've been in these lands long enough to eventually just accept the fact that, well, that's just how it is. And that's just how it was. The red numbers appeared and the other numbers also showed up, and the sounds, of course, the sounds. To maybe understand my thought process a little bit, I haven't really considered gear so far. I also have spent the last maybe 10 hours of gameplay simply just running around here, so education is definitely one of the reasons. Coincidentally, another one might have been to also make use of my recently acquired wealth. What's the point of lots of money if you're not using it? An age-old problem. Well, I wouldn't know, but what I do know is I was approaching this from the wrong angle, and it only took me a few barbarian kills to realize I first gotta make some more money, and after double checking at the basic vendor, buy the cheaper black plate body at the Grand Exchange, return to the Spanish barbecue once more, and then steal all of their fish, naturally. Use the conveniently set up campfire nearby, and I'm making my way back with some new gear and some new emergency fish. But not just to kill any kind of barbarian, there's one guy with a little bit of history, and whom else but this guy to try all my new stuff on. So we once again converse, and the fight is on. And I have to say, to this point I'm still very confused on how to make RuneScape combat in any form interesting, because let's be honest, it really isn't, visually at least. As a player, for some weird reason, there is a certain excitement to these numbers, and I don't know why, because it makes no sense. But the fact that my virtual pixel guy can now hit a 4 fills me with joy for some reason. This might be a red flag and I should consult a professional maybe, but that is a story for another time, I'm sure. The story this time is a fight that took over 5 minutes, depleted pretty much all my fish, but eventually got the job done. To be honest, the crazy loot I was expecting wasn't quite happening, and sadly the best news maybe is that during all of this nonsense, I sold one more red cape. Fine, guess I'll have to make do with the mere joy of getting revenged by being so ruthlessly attacked earlier. And all of this is actually just a distraction from the main goal here. So let me show you where my initial flaw in thought was. Why would I grind mobs that are closer to my level so I could get more of the dopamine points and more experience overall, when I might as well spend the next half an hour at this exact intersection beating up the guys that fuel my cape empire. And that's what I did. Kill the two guys, wait a bit for the respawn, and repeat. All the while making progress in strength, hit points, and also don't forget the bones.
It's always about the bones.
And a little while later, we actually did it. My attack level reaching level 20, and again reminding me that, oh yeah, Adventurer John exists. And wouldn't you know, confronting him about it gives us a mithril longsword. Guess we don't have to buy that anymore. Always the helping hand. Thanks, John. To be fair, my stats don't change in a crazy way, but bigger numbers are bigger numbers. And as I've learned at the very beginning, bigger is always better. And with that out of the way, there's only one thing to do, but do it all again for the defense stat. And of course, slightly work on my cape monopoly. And many capes later, there is some last fireworks, and all of this for a mithril chain body. Well, not quite the piece I was looking for, but for now it shall suffice. But the stats definitely more than make up for killing the same dudes over and over again. Well, and then of course there's the money of selling my old gear, so that's not bad either. But as mentioned before, there was more or less a main reason for doing it at that exact intersection, which potentially also increased the grind by quite a bit of time. But hey, good news boys and girls, there's some more original Bat Sibis capes on the market. Well, never mind, they're all sold out. My bad. But what did you guys expect? And just like pretty much everyone that got to money, I changed my looks entirely. If this won't get me the in-game girls, I really don't know what else. But even more important, I will now be able to maybe answer one of humanity's biggest question. Will money buy happiness? And what better place to figure this out than use a recently acquired benchmark? And by that, I'm of course talking about Gunther the Brave, who we will now start beating up again. And just like that, a 5-minute fight that took lots of fish now requires 1.5 minutes and no fish at all. And through that once and for all concludes, money does buy happiness. You're welcome, humanity. You know, if you have questions, just ask me and I will replicate them in Runescape, I guess. But besides that, one thing became apparent relatively quickly. Simply just beating up barbarians that now are no match anymore isn't quite doing it. But as some guy once said, with great power comes great responsibility. And I am definitely not shying away from said responsibility. And instead of beating up defenseless opponents, I embraced my new position and first thing, I went fishing. And a lot actually. Sure, this might not look like I'm really embracing the idea of responsibility. Well, old habits die hard, I guess. But guess what? He is having another plan. Well, plan is a really big word, but I was pretty much just looking for something to do with all my acquired strength. And that pretty much brings us to the moment in time where, yet another old habit that does die hard, I made a decision to start a quest. But recent advice, and the fact that a combat level is required, leaves me at least not entirely hopeless that this isn't another chopping run. And that's pretty much what all the fish is for. Wow, crazy plan, I know. But well, let's get down to business. And business as per usual in RuneScape means conversation. First thing I have to mention, I look absolutely stunning in these conversation windows now. The second thing is that this time the story is actually told through a cutscene, which brings us back to frickin' Wally. And we get to watch him 150 years ago beating a demon, as there's this guy called Delrith who wants to destroy the city. But thank God for Wally and his special sword called Silverlight, as yeah, without it, it doesn't work. All of this is taking place at a quite familiar stone circle right outside of Varrock, and apparently right now. Good thing I'm here, I guess. Also another quite convenient coincidence, let's say. Right after summoning, the demon is weak enough to be destroyed instantly, so we better get going. I am then told about the magical incantation, a bunch of random words in a row, but the game asking me if I got that once again made me write things down. Still impressed how RuneScape gets me to do that. So the plan is simple, we gotta get that sword and then we gotta kill the guy. I can in no way see any problem with that, right? Well, we will find out with this guy as he is supposed to help us. Also, he has a sword hanging at the wall. Anyway, surprising. Prison? I don't really know. Some sort of joke around surprise or prison. Who cares? We got a sword to find. Good news, the guy has it, but it's in a box and it needs 3 special keys to open it. But at least he has one of them. The other one is with one guy in the castle, and then there's a wizard guy as well, asking him whether he can give me his key well, makes the fun begin, as this guy dropped it just outside the palace kitchen into the drain, and he can't reach it. Of course he did. I also get a little bit of a TLDR where to find the other two guys, and I cannot believe my luck. I am off to another shopping run. Haha! Exciting. Okay then. I decided to simply just get the key from the guy in the castle first, because I wanted to start off with a win. Me being unable to read correctly, not quite a win, as it took me way longer than I would love to admit to figure out that these rooms here are not above the first floor and are not in the northwest of the building either. Funny enough, my lack of remembering directions and actually read properly might surprisingly come in handy later. For now, I was just confusingly running across these halls. Something that no one seems to be bothered by, alright? Until I eventually figure out taking these stairs twice brings us to the guy. One somewhat confusing conversation later, first key acquired, but well, two more to go. Key number 2 brings us to the kitchen. The key here was accidentally dropped into the drain, which leads to the canals. Following yet another one of these not so proud moments, and for those of you that know the quest, I will show you this shot because this is the moment I decided, well, there is nothing to be found in the kitchen. I have to find an entrance to the canals right away. For the 3 or 4 other guys that accidentally clicked on this video and are still here, why is this funny? I will tell you in a bit. At first, let me run around all of this place for 5 minutes looking for an entrance, talking to people, and essentially getting nothing done. And why is that? Because there was nothing to get done. Chasing ghosts essentially. Then again, ghosts actually exist in this game. Anyways, only after coming back, I see the fault of my ways. And pretty much just at 1 or 2 tiles next to the actual solution, I decided to do something entirely different instead. How do I always do this? Incredible. And oh look, that must be the key, but we can't reach it. And I ask myself if there could be something to dislodge it. And I didn't even have to think far because, well, call it gaming instinct, incredible intellect, or well, yeah, just plain luck. Of course I scouted the rooms above, not because I had to, but because I wanted to be safe for all eventualities. So of course I instantly got myself one of these buckets that for some reason everyone had in their room, which made me already question the life the people have around here, but oh well. Fill it up in the kitchen sink and then use it on the drain, and my in-game psychosis tells me to better follow the key down into the sewers, as this is where we just watered it down to. So well, 2 more disclaimers for now. You can't just use the obvious hole right next to you. I know, very surprising, but this is an educational video. Also, if you want to talk to a beautiful lady, you have to spend money. That's pretty realistic. And here I thought my armor would save me. Oh well. Seems like I'm also reliving that part where people were nerds and played RuneScape all day rather than interacting with females. You're welcome. This is definitely by choice. And it was also my choice to now run around in circles again, as despite me trying that earlier, and obviously I knew already that I had to do that eventually, I was sadly not able to find the entrance to the canals. And I would love to talk about gaming sense and intellect again, but it just all boils down to luck once more. As after randomly closing my map, boom, there it is, the entrance. I've come to the conclusion that it might be a mix of talent and stupidity, however that works. Something like maybe 10% luck, 20% skill, let's say 15% concentrated power of will. It's 5% pleasure and definitely 50% pain. But all of these are 100% reason to play this game. Going maybe even higher because second key acquired. It sadly turns out that the fighting part doesn't happen here really, which I initially assumed because, well, we're in the sewers and there's lots of skeletons, but you can't go there. And I have this feeling that this letter might lead us to a certain bear. But as per usual, story for another time. As for now, I have another key to get. So it's first back to Lumbridge and then back to a familiar place. And up here in the first floor, just as prison or the guy told us, we meet the wizard Treyborn. Not only do we get a spinach roll for free, this is also where things get a little bit less running and a little bit more gunning, but without the gun. So anyways, long story short, we gotta get 25 bones, as it is always about the bones. So finally some action. The fact that it still takes me almost half my fish to just kill one single wizard guy around here, good thing I invested into more armor, makes me finally understand why this place exists. So far all this here has done for me was make my walk to the tower longer. Thanks for that. I'm pretty sure there might be a bunch of quests that one can do here, but now it comes in handy because this is my place for getting bones. Given my recent training session, this is merely just a formality, I guess. And just 25 formalities later, our mage guy does this, which then summons that, followed by third key acquired, which then only leaves one conclusion. It is back to walking, way back to whatever this guy's name is. And given the 3 keys, we get the sword that was there all along. Silverlight acquired. Which finally brings us back where everything started. A lady with a crystal ball. And she confirms that it is pretty simple, we just have to kill the guy now. Fine, let's do that then, as apparently this whole city relies on me. You're welcome, by the way, guys. You know, you couldn't even keep playing this game if it wasn't for me. Just want to point that out real quick. Well, at least not here. But then again, this is the only place that I really know. So, slightly off track here. Let's rather kill a demon, which, reminds me again, oh wait, these guys fuck me up, and there's a lot of them. And at that point in time, I haven't quite figured out that you can only fight one guy at a time, and one guy only fights you at a time. You should maybe know that for what's about to happen, as it for one explains my hesitation right here. I wasn't quite sure if I should even walk up, but well, I obviously had to try, one step at a time. But I eventually made it close enough for a cutscene to quickly start and just end. So I restarted it again. Then we see a bunch of dudes doing Fortnite dances, and then we summon the guy. Oh wow, it's the guy! And just like that, I find myself instantly in combat, put to half HP, and slight panic sets in. Not only because of the fact that I'm instantly very close to death, but at this point I still thought that everyone was attacking me at once, which obviously doesn't happen, and I slowly figured that out as well, as the other guy was merely just watching. My panic slightly easing is reignited relatively quickly actually, as I learned that the guy watching was very eager to get his hands into the action. But on top of that, my emergency fish amount is very quickly shrinking, while at the same time so is my health bar, but not is the other guy's health bar. And I think I have played this game enough by now to know that this is no good. And so it happens to happen, well, that it happened. I'm taking a bit of an involuntary prolonged bow, together with an involuntary walk backwards. I'm glad to find out that my stuff this time is outside of that weird arena thing, which very well could have not been the case. But that was a good thing about the walk, because as per usual it gave me a little bit of time to think before I do things. Or it rather reminded me of the fact that, yeah, the armor I bought and spent so much money for is actually hurting me more than it helps when I'm fighting wizards. So please refrain from a armada of combat triangle comments underneath my video. Thank you. This is that unique combination of talent and stupidity that I was talking about earlier. It's quite something. But enough of that. I restock my fish, and with my new look, we try again. And I spawn into the minigame with instantly taking damage. I'm assuming there was an attack midair from the last time I was here or some weird shit. And after walking across here, I realized no one is really in any way interested in me. I could make some joke about women again, but that wouldn't be a joke. But I have more important things to do. So given the opportunity, I go for the big guy right away. Realizing that he is a melee opponent, I try to equip my stuff. While I do that, I pretty much one-shot the guy. To this point, I am not quite sure if I somehow broke this part, because I feel like nothing of this should have been happening that way. But oh, my psychosis is back. Me asking myself, what was the incantation again? Oh boy, have I written something down earlier. See, I knew I had to do this. So one perfectly memorized incantation later, and the evil is banished again. Or maybe until the next 150 years are over once more. I really don't know how any of this works. We put the lid on top of the stone, and very quickly we get a little bit of an idea of what we might have maybe just gotten. And of course we're also finding ourselves in combat right away, perfectly dressed for that again. So avoidance is my best option here. I later looked up that I got myself 3 quest points and the sword, which is actually a downgrade. So thanks, I guess. I tried selling it, but no one wants it, so I guess it will stay in here forever. Unless I'm missing something here, which, well, the chance is very high, isn't it? And just like that, I not only ticked off all the boxes on my to-do list, well, other than the hole in the ground with the barbarians, but I'll reconsider that eventually. But I also saved Varrock from impendable doom. Once again, you know, wait, who the fuck are these guys? You're welcome. And I have to say, playing this game with a bit more of a freestyle style approach, I definitely enjoy that much more. And to everyone that is now still here, I think it might or might not be of interest that I personally think I've reached a point where, you know, I might stream this game now. Well, maybe.